Welcome all. This is a video series for JWT token authentication with .NET Core. I have divided the complete video into different sections. So based on the comfort level, you can move to the respective video level for the authentication part. It has got 5 parts. The first part is talking about why JWT and use cases for JWT. The part 2 talks about a primer on JWT token. A high level, we'll look into what exactly is a JWT. Part 3, we start with a simple web API and we'll implement authorize action filter. That's the starting point of implementation of the authentication for a JWT. And part 5 covers how to generate a JWT token for a client application or any client consumer application. Part 5, how you validate a JWT token. Once a application receives a JWT, how the application validate a JWT token, whether it's a valid one or not, and how to integrate the authentication. So these are the 5 parts which I have divided this video into. Let's talk about an architecture for JWT and what are the use cases what we can use for JWT. The first important valid use case of a JWT is for authenticating a user. When we say authenticating a user, a client application can send a request to a web service. So once the request is received in the web service part, the web service needs to know whether the request was received from a authenticated client. A JWT token helps in this aspect. Web API service can validate a token and it can validate the signature of the token part and check whether this request was received from a authenticated client. So this is primarily the first use case for a JWT token. The second one, for a consumer application, it needs to know some of the information from the client application. When a request is sent from the client application to the web service, the client application can send some information about the user, and the web service needs that information about the user to do some kind of logging or audit trial or something. It could be like an user ID, user email ID, or what's the name of the user. So in a JWT token, there's a section called user claims. In the user claims section, the client application can send the information about the user as part of the JWT token. So that's the second primary use of a JWT token. So these are the 2 important use cases what we use in the industry right now. So for these 2 primary use cases, the best fit right now in the industry is a JWT token which can be implemented very easily. The next question is how to generate the JWT token for the client application. As I told you, the client application sends the JWT token to the web service, but who can generate the JWT? The client application itself can generate the JWT using the available JWT standard library. JWT library is an open source, so all the platform or all the languages support JWT library. So the client application itself can generate the JWT token which needs to send to the services. In an enterprise application, there will be a server called authentication server or a centralized authentication agency. So when the user logs in an application, it sends a request to the authentication server. This is where the user is getting authenticated, like the use of a Windows directory or using another servers, something like Ping Identity. Some kind of servers are there like a central authentication server. So these servers can authenticate a particular user, and as a success, it can send a valid JWT token to the client application. Once the token is received by the client application, it can use this token as a valid token for communicating to any other downstream application. So this is a typical architecture what you see in kind of an organizational or enterprise applications. Before I conclude this video, let me cover at a high level what I'll be showing in the Handson lab section. For Handson, I'll be using Visual Studio 2019 and Postman tool. Postman tool is for testing the web API. So in step 1, we'll create a simple web API. We'll be testing the web API from the Postman tool by sending a request from the Postman to the server. Since it's an anonymous request and no JWT authentication is enabled in the first place, we'll be getting the response back. In the step 2, I'll be showing how to create a JWT token from the .NET Core library. Using this token, we'll be proceeding to the step 3. In step 3, I'll show how to validate a JWT using the libraries in the .NET Core and how JWT authentication can be placed for the web API. So that's all in this video.